three words that actually were sort of on the title of the blurb that Mary sent out was co-creation, connection, authenticity, heart, and healing power. And those are the five major components for me in the underlying the undergirding of a wedding ceremony. There's so much of the time that a couple will come in, or it's after the ceremonies happen and we're at the reception, and people will say most ceremonies are empty. Most of them, it's just this quick thing before the party.
Mm-hmm.
It was inauthentic. It was impersonal. The minister didn't know the people and made a mistake about their names, and went off. That's quite a bit. Or gone off on a tangent about something that had nothing to do with the couple. So coming to know, even if it's just a couple of meetings, finding that way into who they are and what their essence is all about and what's important to them is key. Welcome. It's okay. Come on in. There's handouts in the other room. Okay. We are so fortunate to be the ones who are carrying on these ancient ways. That we as a species have been, they're finding that even Neanderthal did ceremony. I have some Neanderthal in me, so I was glad to hear that.
Don't we all?
No.
Oh.
No. Just the ones that were Northern European. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we
Because that's where
don't.
the Neanderthals
No.
were. Huh? Yeah.
But that's a whole other subject, right?
Yeah.
So the truth of it is, one of my teachers, and some of you may be hearing this again, I've said some of this before, but it bears repeating again and again, that we carry the memory and the DNA of doing ceremony, doing ritual, calling on the forces of the universe to help us, to support us, to guide us in our puny little lives that are struggling and trying to make sense of things. And so everyone has this memory. We have it in our bones. And so people will come into my office and they'll kind of be dazed, and they'll, well, what do you do? I don't know. And, I'll say to them, what we know in this culture right now on the planet is how to have a good party.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to do that. The couple knows how to throw a good party. They don't know how to throw a good ceremony. And I have to say that I do have, there has been this wave of, having your Aunt Sally, or having, your best friend from college, or somebody that you care about, that cares about you, that knows you, officiating at the wedding. And I think that what is true is that people don't remember the importance of having someone who can hold ceremonial energy, ceremonial space. They don't understand the depth and the layered gifts that can bring. That's if the person who is officiating really cares about being present and really cares about connecting with everyone. So this is one of the few rituals we have left to honor the great mystery and to honor community. Really, I have to really. Often I have to remind people about baby blessings. I have to remind people. There are people who don't want to have a funeral. Don't have a funeral for me when I die. So, and there are people who elope, that's true. But even in the courthouses, the people that are marrying people are doing it in a ceremony. They're doing it respectfully. So this is a little window that we still have, a big window, an opportunity. And sometimes I think about some of the weddings I went to as a child and as a young adult, where the minister was really trying to bring everybody to Jesus. Not talking about relationship, not grounding the ceremony in the couple, but using it as an opportunity to witness. And you know, that can be an uncomfortable thing. So I've committed myself to witnessing about what I know about what creates a really healthy, balanced, nurturing relationship. People have been, so we're inviting people to remember and to access this power. And so everything that I do, all of these handouts, everything I'm going to say is all about that. It's all about creating authentic connection with the divine, with ourselves, and with each other. You know, people have been, quote unquote, stealing ceremony from each other forever. You know, they would go, you know, thousands of years ago, they'd go to some other area, some other tribe. They'd be part of some ceremony because they were happening all the time, right? And they would find something that really spoke to them, and they would bring it back to their people. So, you know, that's the spirit in which I'm sharing whatever it is that I've gotten. What is it now? I was ordained in '88, but I remember doing a ceremony for a same-sex couple before I was ordained, legally ordained. And I knew I was doing ceremonies. I don't know with you all. I mean, it's a calling that something knocks on your door of your heart and your soul, and it just is. And I know that I'm doing the work I'm supposed to be doing because I keep growing in it. That's a really important part. If I ever feel like it's getting stale, if I ever, you know, there have been times when it's like, I'm not feeling this one, or I'm not feeling connected here. And then I go back into myself and I find out what it is that I need to be doing or experiencing or exploring. And I ask, help me juice this up, help me enliven what I do. And I haven't had that feeling for a while, actually. And there are all different levels of appreciation of the work, aren't there? You know, you do a ceremony and they're just beaming at you. It's like there hasn't been anything like this since chewing gum. You're just it. And then if there's one where they just kind of, well, thank you. You know, here's your other half of your fee. And they go off, and it's like watching myself, watching my ego, where the attachment is to being praised, and where I look, you know, like that other part of me is like, oh, they didn't I? So what I do before a ceremony is I just hand it over. I do my preparation. I do my whatever practices ground me and connect me. But how other people receive what I do my best, and how they receive it is not my business. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but
No, that's true.
No,
it's true.
You can't be responsible
No,
for what they do.
no.
You can only give your 120%.
Yeah. Now I have a confession to make. I said there was going to be lecture, handouts, and interactive. But, you know, in the small amount of time that we have, the interactive piece, I want to have time for, you know, comments and questions, and that's the interactive part for me. we would need to have this be a half day or a whole day to have, you know, to create ceremony and to have that kind of an experience. So, so anything that you might have to share or any questions you have, please. This is a mutually generating field here, which is what is true for working with a couple in planning, not just planning the ceremony, but getting to know them, having them be self-revealing, having me be self-revealing enough, and co-creating. It's a co-creation, so that when it's over, number one, it's not over, but number two, they can own it as something that they created with me. That I was the guide, I was a facilitator, but you know, I pulled forth the ideas from them. I elicited the engagement from them that allowed that authenticity and for them to be engaged, so that everyone, it's like a transmission. It's like something that keeps connecting everybody. It's like the 6 degrees of separation. It's like 0 degrees of separation in the wedding ceremony. And when the parents, who sometimes would love to have had it be done by a Catholic priest in you know, church, and with, you know, the mass and all of that, I just did a wedding where I met with a couple after. I always like to meet with a couple after to do a little debriefing, and they were saying how much their Catholic parents were so relieved and so pleased at the heart, and it didn't matter. The mother said, well, we were upstairs with the bride getting all ready, you know, all the women were together doing the women thing. The mother said, well, I have to tell you, I had a mass said for you. And the daughter was, oh, great, Mom. And she said something about holy water, and I said, well, I wish that you had brought the holy water so that we could use it in the ceremony. You know, it's like opening up and welcoming all of it. Because it is strange for some of the families who are steeped in tradition and what is okay and what isn't okay, to see their children doing something new and strange in a way. That's why it's important that everything be authentic, so that the strangeness melts, it just dissipates. One of the things that I would like us to do right now, just for a few minutes, to take 2 minutes each, I'd like to have you pair up. So just two and two and two and two. And take 2 minutes apiece. And I would like to have you say, what is your favorite thing about being a minister? And what do you identify as your strongest quality or asset in being a minister? And what do you consider to be your edge of growth in your ministry? Because I think that those are all really important pieces to stay aware of. One is as we present ourselves to the world, being really awake to our assets, and as we are refining how we are of service, to be aware of our edge. And it could be even marketing, you know, not necessarily how we engage with people, but
So you're asking for the place that we find that we need growth the most.
Could you repeat that again?
surely I will. What is your favorite thing about being a minister? What is your strongest asset that you consider to be your strongest asset? And what is your challenge or your edge in your ministry? So let's just, and somebody that doesn't matter whether you know somebody well or not, just to do this as easily and smoothly as possible. And we'll
So-
take 3 minutes apiece. I want to go back. I want to sort of go back to the beginning. I want to talk about how people find you, and how you engage with people in the beginning. I'll talk about how I engage, what works for me, what hasn't worked for me, and give you a little of counsel from this perspective of all these years. And you know, it's been all of these years, and each segment has a financial component to it too. There was a period where, you know, I got what I was, I'll just say this, if I'm saying it to the camera here, but I got what I knew I was worth. There was, you know, before 2008, there was a greater abundance flowing in our culture, and everything that I put out, time-wise, energy-wise, intention-wise, connection, was valued and honored, and there wasn't any question, for the most part. And then we've just gone through a period where there's a little more contraction around the whole financial piece. And being an officiant is different than being the caterer, or being the person who makes the cake, or the DJ, or the photographer, because all of those people, you can taste the cake, you can go and have a tasting on the food, you can see what the photographer's done, what the spirit is. And yes, an officiant often has a website. I do right now, mine is under construction, but it's, you know, and I have a Yelp page, which is a very important thing to do, very important thing to do, to have a Yelp page. But I found myself trying too hard. I went through a period where I wanted them to see, to understand what goes into what I do, and how much effort I put in, and what the spirit of what I offer is. And I wasn't connecting up. These people, a lot of them find me on Yelp, because Yelp is the thing. You know, you want an officiant in the Palo Alto area, there I am. And there are these really powerful, very specific reviews from people that I've worked with. And I realized that what I needed to do was just relax and let it come to me, and be calm, and be gentle, and be curious of the couple. But I didn't have to convince them. I found that I was overwhelming. I went through a period where people would come, they'd read the reviews, they'd be excited, they'd come, and then they wouldn't work with me. And that was really shocking, because I know how good I am. And I realized that it had to be how I was presenting myself. So I have this poem that has helped me come back. It's been my medicine. And it's a poem by Franz Kafka.
A poem?
A poem, really, really. So here it is.
So how many pages is this poem?
It's very short, but you only say it to yourself. You do not share it with your clients.
Okay.
You do not need to leave your room. Remain sitting at your table and just listen. Don't even listen. Simply wait. Don't even wait. Be quiet, still, and ordinary. The world will offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. Now that's a practice. Quiet, still, and ordinary. So when a couple comes to, so I have, what do I have here? I have a letter that I wanted to read to you of a response to somebody's email. People will email and say, are you available on this day, and how much do you charge?
Yeah.
tell you something. I used to
course.
be resentful. I used to be resentful well, you know, and you know, and I got actually the response that I got from this young woman that I responded to. Her response back to this email that I'll actually read you was, we were thinking that we were really imagining $200 to $300, and I'm sorry that we won't be able. And I said in the email, I will work with a couple if we are meant to work together. We will figure something out. But it's interesting that sometimes people don't get that message, you know. They don't read it. Maybe they're embarrassed. I don't know what it is. And some things we have to just let go of. But I said here, hi Steph, congratulations on your upcoming wedding. Regarding an estimate on fees, my rate, and I often use the words they use. So I will respond, and I have sort of a standard response because you can't just keep recreating over and over again and drive you crazy and take up too much time. But I will pull words that they've used to connect with them. Regarding an estimate on fees, my rates are dependent on the amount of time and level of engagement that couples are wanting with me. As an example of a moderate version, I meet with a couple twice, each appointment an hour and 30 minutes, craft the ceremony with the couple, write up and format the ceremony with a copy going to the couple, assist with editing vows, and that happens through email exchanges, so that's an additional amount of time, facilitate the rehearsal, and officiate the ceremony, sign legal documents, and my usual fee is $675. An hour travel time and expense is included in my fee. If a couple would like to go deeper through premarital counseling sessions, which I hardly encourage, my fee is $75 an hour, usually 2 or 3 sessions to go through the questions and responses that I have. I have a series of relationship and commitment questions. A shorter version would entail 1 meeting for an hour and a half, helping with writing of vows, which is an additional amount of time, officiating the ceremony, signing all legal documents with the fee being $450. So, included in all my work with clients, no matter how limited our time together, is my extensive collection of wedding poetry, guidelines and examples for writing vows, email support in helping couple write their personal vows, plus 30 years of experience in co-creating unique, personal, and meaningful wedding ceremonies with couples. All that being said, I approach each couple and their circumstances on an individual basis. I feel that if we are meant to work together, we'll find a way to make it happen. In the type of work I do, while it's true, I put myself and my time into each ceremony, I must make a living, it is crucial to me that money is not the overriding factor in the process of determining whether a couple and I work together. I offer a 45-minute meeting without charge or obligation so that we can see if we're a fit. Let me know if I can answer any other questions or call or email to schedule an appointment. Warm regard, Carol. So her email back was, I'm sorry, we can only do 200 to 300. That was our, you know, and of course they're going to have the wedding at a wonderful garden center that's top of the line, and then they'll have the reception somewhere that, you know, you can tell that my little irritation or something is slipping in there in my conversation. But I didn't hear back from her. After I wrote her and said, we'll work something out, I would be willing to meet with you and not do this or that, the other thing, would shorten it, and I would charge a minimum of or $350. And I didn't hear back, and that's okay. You know, it's like you put forth what feels comfortable, and then you let go and you trust that those people who are meant to work with you will be there and will come. So,
Yeah, and if you say it, you kind of have to mean it, or the universe smacks you.
exactly, and you have to learn. It's a growing process for me. And I feel it out. Each couple I use my intuition like that woman at 350, I was not, 300 was not all right for me. Because I knew what I would be putting into it. I'm still writing everything up. I'm still writing a talk. And so it's very important to respect and honor the effort that I put out. And to learn to not give too much, too, And that's one of my things to say is when you're doing an interview with someone and they're checking you out and you're checking them out, you don't want to give away the family jewels or your ideas, all of your ideas. They'll say, well, what would you have? And I say, when we work together, that reveals itself. That becomes clear as I get to know you and what it is that's important to you. I ask them questions. So I ask them what they're looking for in the officiant. I ask them what they were drawn to and what they read about me. I ask them how they envision the spirit of their ceremony to be. How many guests are going to be at the wedding and how many in the wedding party. So I'm kind of helping to envision and create as we're sitting there and connect with them energetically. I asked them, and I learned this sort of the hard way. I asked them, what's your general budget for, what have you been thinking about your budget for an officiant? And as I was driving here and stuck in traffic, and I out loud, because I was just sort of immersing myself in my presentation, I said, just kind of playing around to myself, I said, well, what are you paying your disc jockey? I'll take what you're paying your disc jockey.
How about a percentage of what you're paying for the wine?
That's right. And what I say to people, and this couple that I did the kind of checking in with each other after the ceremony, I really like to do that. And
when do you do that? Because they're usually off taking
no. This is after the honeymoon.
Oh, after the honeymoon.
This was like 3 or 4 weeks after the wedding that we met this last Sunday. I tried to do that. I realize now that I could have written an entire book if I had done this with every wedding couple that I have worked with. If I had had a form, a questionnaire, what worked for you in the ceremony, what would you like to have had been different, that I would have a gold mine.
Yeah.
And I would have a book. I didn't do it. Next lifetime. But this couple said, and I say it on my website, I say it to couples while we're working together, the spirit of your ceremony will inform the entire event. That the heart and the love and the connection, and when you talk about the golden elephant, when you talk about the deep truth of relationship and humanity and connection and what this culture needs right now to be sustained and nurtured and fed, everyone is touched. They are listening. You have this audience that is just captive, and they're hungry for this food. And I got an email from the photographer of the last wedding I did saying, everything you said I needed to hear. And I got an email, it's interesting, I got an email from the wedding planners, which I have never gotten before, saying, yours, the serenity and the calm, and that's what, cultivating that, coming in and I think a lot of that, Janet, as you were saying, it takes practice. It's having the experience and knowing that you're being held by your guides, by all of the precious marriage juju from the beginning of wedding ceremonies. It's there for you. And all of those people that are there for the couple and are there because they love them. And So it all evens out. It all evens out. I'm thinking about the finances and the disc jockey and the how much the wedding cake costs, and you know, it's like it really truly is that I said in my email, it really, really is about helping people to access and feel the power of the connections in the community and the connections with the great mystery, with the God force. And I say to the couple, when you invoke the power, because they're often worried about their parents, or they're worried about some crazy aunt, or you know, they're worried about how people are going to show up and what they're going to be like. And I say, when you call this energy, when you invoke it, it's already here, but when you acknowledge it with words and the energy, it's there, it comes, and the power is felt. And it infuses everything. Everything. And that is something that trusting that, taking the leap, doing the work, and seeing what you're capable of with the help of the spiritual realms and the heart of everyone present.
What do you do if after you've been talking to them for a while, the little inner voice said, this is not going to work? They are not going to be together in 20 years, or...
Okay, that's a really good question. I used to have that come up. I have it come up. Oh, I wonder, because who knows, you know?
Right.
But I remember going to my Zen teacher and saying to him, I'll work with a couple and I'll just say they don't have the skills, they don't have the tools, they're at odds with each other. I'm like, what am I doing here? How can I do this ceremony knowing that there's this strife? And he said, you know, bless them and throw rose petals in their path. Because we never know. And even if it is not something that is going to continue to death do they part, that's fine. I mean, that's what it is. That's the destiny. That's the, you know, a friend of mine who was actually a Catholic priest who left the priesthood to marry a woman that he met and fell in love with. In their ceremony, they said, as long as we both show love.
Mm-hmm.
I don't encourage people to say till death do us part. I've read some things that Abraham, you know, the Abraham Hicks, has said that till death do us part is our fear. It's trying to hold on, trying to have security with something that is, it's impossible for us to have control and to create that kind of security in a real way, because life is unknown. It's the great mystery. So I don't know. I know that they're going to have issues. Everybody has issues. And that's what I say in my questions on marriage and commitment, that couples come together. They often will get together with the energy of their original caregivers. There'll be issues that they had with their parents or their siblings that they get together, they're drawn to that energy, not to torture themselves, but to heal. You know, as a child, they had no control over the situation. As an adult, they can learn to have control. They can learn to speak with their needs. They can learn to speak what they're feeling. They can learn to create and to cultivate skills that will help them have a voice, know their power, turn things around, get their needs met. Mm-hmm. And so often they've picked the perfect person for that part of their path in their development as a soul. And hallelujah if it goes on and they both transform and keep changing and growing together in the relationship. And if they don't, blessings on them, and that hopefully they've gleaned what they had to glean from that relationship, and if they haven't completed that piece, they're going to find somebody else that's got that piece that they're going to dance with, probably, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working with a couple right now that I married them because their wedding was in Mexico. So I married them here. They had known each other 7 years. It had been a push you pull me. She'd kept him at a distance. Finally she said she was ready and opened up. I mean, it's just classic. And then they got pregnant the week they got married in Mexico. And they're remodeling a house, and the whole thing seems to be dissolving after 2 months.
Wow.
And I'm working with them right now. And I don't know what's going to happen. And it's important that I not be attached, that I show up, that I speak my truth, that without blame or judgment, that I not take sides, that I see each person's role and each person's area of growth, and I'm a mirror, and I am a compassionate and neutral witness and guide. And I'm a pastoral counselor. I know them because we went through a lot of this together in the questions and inquiry. And you know, me knowing what my edge is, me knowing when to refer them is where my wisdom piece is. That is there someone else that could, and I have a mentor that I work with, who I get feedback from and who works with me, so that I stay in my integrity with the work that I'm doing, that I don't take myself beyond my capacities. That's very important, to really be responsible that way. So bless them and throw rose petals. And do everything you can to give them the skills, give them the tools, and they're responsible for using them. And it's their choice whether they're willing to put the effort, the perseverance, the dedication, because it takes that. It really does.
Carol, I want to say something before
Yeah.
we go on to the next topic. I think one of the things, you know, you have all this paperwork, but some of the best weddings I've ever done is when it wasn't scripted. I just, you know, that feeling the energy and saying the things that you feel need to be said then.
Right. Well, you know, I write a talk. A lot of these have to do with other people having a role. So some of these handouts are about someone else having the script, so that they can actually get up and do it. You know, many people couldn't stand and deliver without something pre-written. My work over my 30-odd years has been to allow myself to be able to do that. And it's taken practice, it's taken trusting myself, it's taken becoming grounded in my own spiritual path. And now I will write things out, but I'm just holding things, and I am extemporaneous. So that it's alive for the people that are receiving and for me. So it's a little bit of both. And for me, it was a process. I didn't start there. I had my first ceremony, I had everything memorized. Everything memorized. I don't know how I did it. I was younger and my brain was
Supple.
more supple, right? So yes, I agree with you. Spontaneity, leaving room for the magic is really key. It's very important.
I want to talk about one I had because it was a rehearsal. and both families were fighting. I mean, really. And she can't do this, and he can't do this, and why are you doing that? And finally, I just had it. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, would you please come and join me, and we're going to make a circle. And they all looked at me like, the minister's speaking, we better do what she says, you know. And so some wouldn't even hold hands with each other. And I said, now I want you to look across. This is all about love. And I want each one of you to look at the other person in the circle and send them love. And after we break the circle, you need to hug everybody that's been in this circle. And if you don't, I will not be here tomorrow. Because I'm about love. And all I see here is not about love. And they all went, oh my God, the minister's upset, we've got to do something. And anytime anything comes up tomorrow, I want you to hug that person. It was the huggiest ceremony you've ever seen. The flower girl walked down and she hugged both the bride and the groom. Everybody came up and hugged, and afterwards somebody said, I've never seen a service with so much love.
Well, you know, I have another place in my presentation where I talk about the rehearsal. What I do, because, you know, it's really like herding cats.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yes.
I'm not that
Cats.
good at herding cats, but I have an order of ceremony that is all written out, and I have the cues for every single person who's part of the ceremony. I don't have the vows. I only have the different parts of the ceremony on this rehearsal. I have a rehearsal order of ceremony, and I hand it out to the key players, and I gird myself, and then I gather everyone. So I say, may I have everybody's attention? And they're all just so excited, and you know, there often are undercurrents of tension between people, it's true. And what I say is that I'm so delighted that everyone is there, that I want to invite everyone to remember at every step in the ceremony and in the actual ceremony, the day of the ceremony, that why we're here for the love of these two people. We're here for this precious couple. And let everything that you do come from that place. That to enjoy everything, every step you take, every word you speak, that this is about creating, sustaining, strengthening family ties and community. And it's a blessing for all of us here. And so I sort of start the whole rehearsal before we even take a step and set the intention. And people really are affected by that. They come up afterwards and say, thank you for the heart, thank you for the kindness. And I use the words kindness, you know, that everything we do with each other is supportive and caring. So
Mine had an open bar before it started.
Oh.
well, yeah, I try to
For the rehearsal, yeah.
I try to discourage alcohol before the ceremony. Yeah, I do.
Well, at the rehearsal,
yeah.
sometimes they think the rehearsal is just a big party, and they're seeing each other, and that's what I had run
Well,
into.
it's the herding cats, you know,
Yeah,
and
but
they've
when
been
that- when
sometimes they
those-
have been drinking, and
Yeah, that's.
you know, and then you just kind of, alrighty then,
Yeah.
and you get them
Not a
to.
lot you can do.
You get them to, you know, I often will start with the processional, since we're talking about the rehearsal. Start with the processional, do the processional, go through the ceremony, do the recessional, and then maybe do the processional again if they feel like they need it. So, let me talk about money and marketing a little bit more. It actually, the whole marketing piece has been my weakest link. And marketing your services in whatever way you do, whether it's telling people that you do what the work that you do, it's important that you wear that hat, that you own the hat. And so I tell people I'm a ceremonialist. I set up my Yelp page. I had somebody help me, somebody who's computer savvy, internet savvy. She helped me get my pictures up there. She helped me write up my blurb for who I am and what I offer. And then Yelp used to have a rule, an unspoken rule, that you didn't ask anyone for a review, that they needed to give it spontaneously. And you know, I think you don't want to tell somebody what to write, but asking them if they've had a really positive experience. And these younger people now are so internet web savvy that Yelp and Google Plus and all of these different, you know, venues for reviewing a person's work, I think are really valuable. So I have people say absolutely, and then there's some people that say they'll do it and they don't do it.
Yeah.
But if they but that's, you know, you don't want to. I never ask people twice. You know, if their lives are too busy, or if they say yes and they don't do it, maybe I don't know. I just accept that. How do I manage my resistance to the financial part of my work? I've had to get really clear about the levels of my fees and what are included in those levels, so that I can be clear, so that then people are getting clear information, so that they can make a clear decision. I have to say that early on, I would wait until, sometimes the second meeting to tell them what I was charging, because I felt so uncomfortable about talking about my fees. And it wasn't because I didn't feel like I was worth it. It was the whole cultural piece around ministers, around what ministers charge, about what people expect, and there's this antiquated system that is no longer really viable about the minister has the parish and the flock, people tithe, the minister is paid, they usually have a house that they're given, the pastoral house, and then you give them a little something on the side, but you've tithed, and so all the services that they offer are part of what you get for your tithe, and that is really not viable anymore for most communities. So it's like, I didn't want to deal with that gray area, and I finally realized that to honor myself, to honor my work, and to honor them, I needed to get clear. And I needed to get clear. And it took a long time, and it took, I really suggest, if you have resistance to a business plan, to marketing, to getting clear about your vision, that you join a group of people who support each other in their business, so that you're action oriented, and you say, I'm going to do X this week or this month, and then you're accountable, and you check in with people and you let them know how far you've come. You say, I'm going to do this step, and this step. And getting, I call myself I used to call myself a ceremonial minister, because I don't have a flock. I have individual clients that come see me. I work with couples. I'll work with them after their wedding, to help them live their vows, or to do their baby blessings or their house blessings, but I'm more of a ceremonial minister, actually. And getting clear about what your ministry is about and how you present yourself to the world is an energetic thing, as well as an action-oriented thing. So clarity is important. I've gone through so many cycles around the whole financial piece. At first it was donation, and then I realized that wasn't going to work. I just resentment. I saw them spending thousands of dollars and giving me a check for $125. You know, again, on the mentality of the minister and the congregation, and then I went through that whole period where I really felt like I had a sliding scale. I've always had a sliding scale. I work with people. And then it got smaller after 2008. Then I sort of downsized what I was expecting to receive for the effort. And I've always put the same amount of effort in. That hasn't changed. Because the product, I'll call it a product, the sacred performance, really matters. That no matter how much I'm paid, the quality is the same. What I bring to what I do is the same. I have a commitment to that. So connecting with people that are the guests, and connecting with anyone who's there, no matter how large or small the event, connecting with the elders. I make it a point to connect with the grandparents and the parents. And the oldest ones there, I really make a connection. I make an effort to go up and honor them and show my respect. And those things matter. They help to create a field in that ceremony. I do it at the rehearsal. I start right away with the grandparents and the parents. I walk up and I shake their hands, and if I've had an authentically meaningful connection with their child or their grandchild, I let them know. I let them know how delighted I have been to work with their child or their grandchild. Or I'll let them know how good I feel about the union. If it's true, you know. And obviously, if I have any concerns, I don't mention those, but I definitely underscore what I see that is affirming. The wrap-up meeting with the couple after the honeymoon, you know, I mentioned that I asked them questions. The last couple said it was perfect. We wouldn't do anything differently. I would have had them do things differently. You know, I realized at the rehearsal that there were pieces that were theirs to do that they had not taken care of, and I had to kind of come in and email things to the grandmother and email things to the mothers. I had to get the forms for the mother's ring blessing to them, and that's okay. Good that they felt that they wouldn't do anything differently and that nothing fell through the cracks. That I was there underneath the cracks to grab things, you know, and never said a word. It's important to never say a word. What I say to couples is, if you're blessed to have if it's right for you in your life to have children, I want you to know how important I think it is to have a baby blessing for your child, to have the child welcomed by the community and have it introduced to the earth and have it offered up to life. And so remember, if you do, that if it feels right to you, that I'm here for that. And several couples have said to me that they appreciate that if they have any difficulties in their marriage, that they feel like they would like to come back to me because I know them well, I care about both of them. I'll say this as an aside. It is very important to be neutral, to not take sides in any kind of exploration that you do around their relationship, because it takes two people. Any dance in a relationship, whether it's a wonderful dance or it's the I'm stepping on toes dance, it takes two. And so to see it in a larger perspective and to know that both people have their part in it helps you to stay neutral. and have a certain kind of clarity. And so letting people know that you are there to help them if they need to strengthen their vows that they've taken. The other piece around sort of putting yourself out and continuing on, helping people to know how to keep using you, is to ask for and receive help with what you need. If it would, I have done this before where I've gotten a group of people together to talk about me. What people see about my strengths, where they feel like my edges of weakness are, and any kind of intuitive hits around how I could do things more effectively and more successfully. The bottom line here is to make realistic choices about what you're going to put your attention to, and then to know yourself. To know yourself, make realistic choices about how you're going to move forward with what it is that your vision is, and then don't beat yourself up. Accept yourself. I mean, I went through, like, oh, my website, I need to revamp my website, and it's just like, I'll get to it when I get to it, if I get to it. Right now, I'm noticing that the Yelp connections are strong, and so I kind of know how many ceremonies. I don't want to do even one ceremony a weekend, actually. I have other things that I do that augment my ceremonial work, because that's what I need to feel nurtured and feel connected in my life, in the work that I do, in my professional life.
Carol, could you just mention how much people pay for the Justice of the Peace? And then how much people usually pay for a Catholic priest or Episcopalian, church thing? I mean, what are their fees in relationship to yours?
It varies so much.
What's the range?
The Catholic, it's more of a donation. The Jewish synagogue, they often will give their what is it? Rabbi. Huge amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really honor their holy people.
Okay.
Whatever, their reverends, their rabbis. The Catholics, usually you are part of the parish, and you'll often rent out the space, and then you'll give the minister something on the side, the priest something on the side. I don't actually know, but it is a broad range. I look at websites occasionally. There's this one minister up in the wine country that, he charges $1,500 for a wedding ceremony. I don't know how many times he works with a couple. But he talks about on his website how people are getting value, that what he has to offer is worth every penny. And then he's had some people write letters that, and reviews for him and testimonials that say he's worth every penny that we paid. But I will say it's the gamut, and some people are, 200, some people are 1,500. I've gotten $2,500 for a wedding. I've gone to Mexico. I'll go, do a destination wedding, and they pay for all of my expenses.
I had one bride tell me that when she was shopping for her officiant, she ran across one person that was charging, I think, $1,200, and wanted another $1,200 if they wanted him to come and do rehearsal with them. Yeah.
I wonder, maybe he gets the really, 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 really high end salaried people that they feel like if they're paying a lot of money that they're getting something really special. I married a couple. I married a couple last year. I think the total amount of money that they paid me was $2,000, and I put in a lot of effort and work and heart and soul. This woman gets $500 for a 50-minute session with a couple in her therapy. $500 for 50 minutes in Palo Alto. You know, it's funny. It's
That's
just a funny
therapy.
world.
That's therapy, right?
That's
You said
therapy,
that, yeah.
and I did therapy with them.
Ah.
I mean, you know, I won't go into that particular situation, but, she valued the work that I did. I mean, she set me up with a massage and a facial and
Ooh.
put me up in a really wonderful place and included me in everything. I mean, she honored me, really honored me. Another way of marketing yourself is to connect up with venues. If you go to a venue to do a ceremony, you give them your card. If you have a brochure, that's a good thing. And you say, I'd love to do more weddings here. Put me on your list if you would.
I've done that. I haven't gotten anything from it, but
I've gotten some things from it,
Really?
yeah.
I-
You know,
I have
referrals
a-
are really the best.
I have a florist that he is fantastic at recommending people.
You know,
Wow.
and that's really the network.
Mhm.
I've done bridal fairs, and those are interesting. Have they paid for themselves? I guess in the long run they have, but they take a lot of work. But they're interesting and they're informative, and you can go around and get all the great samples of wedding cakes and.
Bonus.
Yeah. The next part I'd like to talk about here is the connection with the couple.
Is that in a particular?
Well, yeah, it's the questions on marriage and commitment, and also it's the first homework assignment that I give them. The first homework assignment I give them is to write a page on why I am choosing this person to spend my life with and to make these commitments to. And I ask them to talk about, yes, the yummy parts of the relationship, but the parts that are edgy, the challenges. Because that is also one of the reasons why they're choosing this person, is the whole dance. And I tell them that so that I can know them better and that they can open up to the gifts that all parts of their relationship have for them. And then I have them read it to each other in my presence. So the three of us are there, and I will tell you that 70% of the time, one of them is crying, listening to what their partner has written about them.
Is it ever you that's crying?
Sometimes.
You'd be touching
Yes,
them.
yes. Sometimes. Not often, because I'm holding the space. I've cried in the ceremony a lot, a fair amount, actually.
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to get not get misty when you're making them cry.
Yeah, well, and I
Oh,
think
my.
Misty is good. You know,
Yeah.
Misty's good.
Yeah.
But it shows you a lot. That first homework assignment shows me the quality of their connection, their communication. You know, a lot of times couples don't talk about these things. They don't appreciate each other verbally very much. And you can see in the responses how hungry they are for acknowledgement and for being, you know, that their partner sees them, their beloved sees them. And sometimes they'll just say, oh, I didn't know you felt that way about that part of me. So it's a wonderful opening and introduction to the questions on marriage and commitment. And
So the page that they're, or the page or two that they write, is it supposed to be the answers to these questions?
no,
or is
that's
it-
the first, that's just the
It's
info.
in addition to.
Yeah, and
Oh,
and I'll
okay.
tell you one of the things that I do.
Oh.
I'll it's just kind of a tapestry here. I do have a general order of ceremony that I think that
Yeah, the
you made a
pages.
copy of, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I ask a couple to do is to write a little love letter. Why I choose you to their beloved, that they are not to share with them, that they will read just before they say their vows.
Oh, how sweet.
So,
Cool.
so there are a couple things that first homework assignment is something that they can draw on when they're, in the last couple of weeks before the wedding, and they're trying to get their vows written, and they've got these words they're supposed to, pull together, and I say, just go back to that first homework assignment and pull from that. And I tell them it can be tender, it can be funny, you can use a little story, whatever works for you. It's like whatever works. But it's wonderful for your beloved's family to hear coming from your mouth how much and why you love their child or their grandchild or their sibling. It's magic.
That kind of presumes that they're going to be writing their own vows. What if they don't want to write their own vows?
Well, I'll tell you, I strongly encourage writing their own vows.
Mhm.
I have, and the vows come out of, now this is the scenario where they want to do some premarital work. They're open, okay?
Okay.
Even if they don't do the premarital work, I still encourage the writing of the vows. And I encourage the writing of the vows from a real, authentic, genuine place of who they are and what their work is and I say to them, what the vows ideally are an expression of what you know makes this relationship work already and what you want to sustain. What your vision is for the future as a couple, and what your own personal commitment is to growth in and in these questions on marriage and commitment, there's a question, what are 4 things about your partner that drive you nuts?
Yeah.
And then there's what are 4 things about you that you know drives your partner nuts? I don't use the word nuts, but
Bonkers?
right. And you see, and then we talk about these things. We have these, and this is okay. So one of the things that is important to talk about here is how to keep this work alive for you. How to keep it alive and fresh so that I don't just go on automatic. And this, when there are enough couples that want to do this level of inquiry about their relationship, it keeps it alive for me. It keeps it real. It keeps it authentic. It creates a depth that feeds me too. So if they hit a point in these questions on marriage and commitment where you can see that it has roots and it's got depth and it's certainly not going to be unwound in a couple of hours, then you say, listen, you've identified this. Are you willing to work on this in your marriage? Are you willing to address this after all this craziness of the wedding planning and the preparations and everything, So and the couple that I worked with, the couple that I did the meeting afterwards this last Sunday, they said to me, and this has been said again and again and again, we came to know each other better. And I worked with this couple for 3 months. And in 3 months, they came to know each other better. I certainly came to know them better. And when you stand up there at the ceremony, you are a team. And that is what you want. It's the connection between, you want that deeper connection between them, and the deep connection between yourselves and them, and then the connection with the larger group of people. And there are, even in this first homework assignment, if they don't do the premarital work, even in the first, if you're going to have a meeting or two with them, you find out some pieces. And I give them my guidelines on writing vows, and I say, and some people just don't want to say anything. They're terrified. It's enough for them to just stand up there.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't want to be even doing that, but they'll do it. So you have to feel it out. And I grab the minister's handbook and I say, well, okay then. Let's do the traditional vows where you just repeat after me and you say, I will. And it's very important that I not be rigid. It's very important that I take people where they are, but that I say this about all of us, that we take them where they are and we lead them into the terrain a little bit that is uncomfortable for them, because this is an initiation. And I tell everyone that when they say, oh, they'll like, and I say, well, you're in initiation. This is perfect. There needs to be a little discomfort. One of the things that I have a whole list of ritual pieces here, a handout that, ideas of things that you can suggest. You come to know a couple, you don't just throw things out immediately, but you come to know them a little bit, and they'll say, oh, I don't think I want to ask people to bless the rings, pass the rings around to have people put blessing. They'll feel uncomfortable, or it'll be too quiet, or, and I say, I give them little vignettes and scenarios, little stories of experiences in weddings that I've done where it has been profound. It has been humorous. It has been tender, sweet, and I'll say, trust me on this one. And then they'll go ahead and they'll take a risk, and there has never been anyone that's ever been disappointed. Oh, we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have passed the rings. And it's having experience that I stand on experience, and I stand on the history of watching the energy, watching what happens between people when certain things happen in a ceremony. Like the most recent wedding, the bride has a lovely voice. And I just put it out. Is there anybody, I said to the couple, is there anybody that sings or anybody that plays an instrument that they could do that in the ceremony? Because having that kind of aliveness and that kind of artistic expression with things that have meaning, it's really a wonderful thing. And the bride said, well, I was going to sing, but I was going to sing at the reception. And so I kind of zeroed in on her, and I got her to sing to her beloved in the ceremony. And everybody was in tears. This beautiful voice, just crystal voice. And she sang a love song to him. And their dog was the ring bearer. It's just a wonderful time to be doing ceremony. It's a wonderful time. I don't know, this piece on marriage and commitment and the questions, I think that one of the things that is important that I've cultivated in working with people is to be light. So that we're talking about some things that can be challenging for them, but I focus on their strengths. We start out in the questions talking about what their vision is, what do you think it would mean for you to be the best husband or wife that you could be? What qualities that your parents had, what was the impact of their marriage on you? And what would you want to bring forth in your own marriage? Sometimes they say nothing. And sometimes they say that there are very sweet things they want to bring forth from their own parents' marriage that they noticed and experienced. I have questions in here about their sexual relationship. I have questions in here about finances, about values, and depending upon the couple and the time we have, sometimes I'll say, pull 5 or 6 out that you feel are important for you to answer and to bring forth. And I'll leave it to them. I don't have a strict framework that I operate from. I use my intuition, and I believe that is one of the foundational pieces of being a minister, is to leave room for the magic in yourself and for how the wisdom wants to play out in how you show up. And that's what keeps it alive for me, is that it isn't just, okay, now we're going to ask this question and now we're going to do this. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes, sometimes it's uncomfortable. And I realize that all I really need to do in any given moment is be a sacred witness and a good listener. And to extend compassion and empathy. And, I'll say Rome wasn't built in a day. And you have your marriage, you have a lifetime to create an alive, nurturing, successful, healthy connection.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm only familiar with the Catholic Church. When you use the word premarital, or you didn't use the word Cana, it almost sounds like that in order to get married, I think in the Catholic Church, you need to go through some type of stuff. So is what you do your thing that's an equivalency of
Yes.
what they do?
I guess. I haven't looked at their questions.
Okay, and then you just sort of created for yourself
Yes.
whatever
I
it
created
is.
for myself what had relevance and meaning, or what, it's not about going so deep. It's not about doing, although people have done some major, had some major breakthroughs around trust and acknowledging things that were difficult for them and working through them. So there's deep work that's happened, but it's not in-depth therapy. But it's about, let's step to that altar with as much knowledge about ourselves and each other that we can glean and explore before, so that we're not stepping in with the wool over our eyes and some kind of romantic pheromone thing. It's more grounded. So the vows are more grounded. I'm just a little fanatical about the vows, because I feel like vows are there as guideposts. They're not absolutes that need to be followed, and if you don't follow them, if you don't keep them, that you're breaking the covenant of the marriage. And so, as I say, in their handouts about guidelines about writing vows, that to say that you're cultivating, that you vow to cultivate, that you will do your best, and that you talk about yourself. You're talking about what you know you want to work on, what you know sustains the relationship, so that it's alive. And I have them frame, print them and sign them in the ceremony. Every ceremony now that I do, they sign their vows. Every single one, right in front of everyone, right after they have spoken their vows, they turn around and it's right there on the altar with the pen, and I always have the bride sign in her maiden name if she's changing her name, because she's not yet whatever his name is. And then I encourage them to frame them. And in my guidelines, I talk about what to consider in writing your vows. I mean, they put a lot of thought into that party
Yeah.
and the honeymoon. Let's put a lot of thought into
The rest of your life.
what you're creating here.
Yeah.
What you're creating.
Now, what are the basic elements you have to make a wedding?
Well, I've got a handout there. I don't know whether I can pull it up. I'll just say it because it's in me. The first thing that I always do
I
is
mean, yeah, legally. There are only 3 things, aren't there, that you have to have in a wedding legally?
Do, and done.
Says UCM class
Yeah,
review
you have to
elements
say,
for
I
wedding
do.
ceremonies.
You have to say, I now pronounce, and isn't there one other thing?
No, it's do,
No.
do, and done.
Do.
I do,
I do, and it's
done.
done.
Done,
Right.
yeah. But I mean,
By
because a lot of
the
these
vessel
are
mean-
students who have never done
they
a
can-
We have to
wedding.
pronounce,
Yeah,
that's
you have to
done.
pronounce, yeah,
Pronounce
and
is the
done.
done,
Yeah,
and
the
then the
do,
two
the
have to
done,
make
yeah.
their vows, they have to make their pledge.
So the contract, and so they have to accept
Yes.
the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And
do,
then
I
you,
do.
and then you,
I thought that somewhere I heard you had to introduce them, but I guess not.
Well, that's the done.
no,
No, the names.
Well,
What,
you
yeah.
mean, like, ladies and
Oh.
gentlemen, may I present to you?
Mr. and Mrs.
I always do it.
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
do
but
it,
it's not,
but I,
legal is you have
Yeah.
to pronounce them.
yeah.
husband and wife. Okay.
And
Practice is you present them.
And I invite them to have a group pronouncement so that everyone is pronouncing them. It isn't just me.
What do you do for older people? Do you ever marry older people that
Oh,
their
yes.
parents are gone and stuff like that? 'Cause
Absolutely.
Some you were talking about younger and not necessarily.
Oh, yes. And those are often some of the sweetest, because they've been through the trenches, they've been through a lot of pain, a lot of loss, and they've found someone to be a partner and a beloved to move forward with. I married recently a couple that both of them had 2 daughters. And so the daughters were in the ceremony, and the daughters presented the new, I don't know that they were calling them step parents yet, but they presented the partner of their parent with a flower and welcomed them into the family. And these people were in their early 50s. I've married people in their 80s.
Do you also do reaffirmation of vows?
Yes,
Those are sweet.
they're
Yeah.
very sweet, very sweet.
Yeah.
I've redone wedding ceremonies. I've done ceremonies that I would find out that they did a ceremony that did not work, that the energy wasn't there, the power wasn't there, and I have come together with a couple and created a ceremony, and then done on their first anniversary, remarried them. That was powerful. Tom?
Do you face the couple that's being married in a particular direction? Do they face the altar? Do they face the congregation? Do they
It
face
varies.
each other?
I'm realizing that the last couple that I've done, I like them to be connected during the ceremony. I like them, if they want to hold hands, I'll say just get as close as possible. I tell the family members at the rehearsal, if after you've done this poem you want to come up and hug your kid, or whatever kinds of connections that happen between people that want to happen, as spontaneously, do it. You know, it's kind of like what you were saying about the hugging, Dottie. So,
What Tom has done is if there's not an altar, he has the couple face because the reason they face away from people is in the past, historically, was to face the altar. But if there's no altar, he turns them around and has them face the
Congregation.
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 and where have you, I put myself, it's kind of a U, so they're here and I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many people can't see me. I notice that I can't see many people. They can only hear me because the couple has gotten so close
Yeah.
that they're right here and I'm right here.
Yeah.
So sometimes what I'll do is I'll have the groom here, the bride here, and me here. So we're like a little crescent. Yeah.
Sometimes he does that if he has them facing, or he just steps a little to the side so that they can be. I mean, the point is that they're seen. Often he'll have them elevated one step, the bride and groom, and then he's down one step, and then their faces are clearly visible to the congregation as they're making their vows and stuff. It's just another way to enrich the connection of the congregation with what's going on between the two of them.
Yes, and that's a really good point around sound system. That if the guests, the witnesses cannot hear the vows being exchanged or the words of love exchanged, there's something that they're missing,
Missing
and they
something.
know they're missing it.
Mhm.
And so I'm adamant about sound system being good enough. And sometimes, you know, even when I'm adamant, it doesn't really happen.
Yep.
And especially when they're outdoors, the
Right.
sound, you know, dissipates. And if there are a lot of people, it can dissipate.
I only had one sound person that outfitted the couple with their own lapel mics. I had mine, they had theirs.
I ask for that. That's the ideal.
Yeah.
But the bride usually doesn't want to wear one.
Yeah.
So you have to have a sound person, if you're lucky enough to have a sound person that can work the sound while they're talking.
Yeah.
So they can up it and lower it,
Yeah.
you know.
Some of them I think pick up from mine if there's
Right.
if the couple is speaking.
But it's
Clearly
good to do
enough,
a
yeah.
sound check at the rehearsal, but often the sound person isn't there.
Right.
Tom,
Use something like a clipboard with your notes for the wedding on it, and then have a mic attached to it so that you can
Yeah, more like a
Hold that-
hand.
Tip it out.
hold that mic in front of the
Oh, yeah,
people
that- Yeah.
and pick up everything that they say.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Lapel mic could be
the-
flipped.
otherwise they usually don't have them mic'd up properly.
right, they don't. But, you know, I have a ceremonial book that I turn pages.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
And then, anyway, I'm just thinking, I've started to think logistically about how that would work or not work for me, but,
Well, if your ceremonial book is stiff enough, you
Yeah.
just clip the mic.
right, but then
At
you
the
have
end
to
of
put
the
the
book.
book down at certain times.
Right.
There are certain, you know,
Yeah.
you know, it depends on how elaborate the ceremony is and how many
Yeah.
different steps there are. Sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to kind of wing it.
Yeah.
And never clip a microphone to a book that you're turning the pages on.
Because
You
the
can hear it.
pages
That's
is
right.
louder.
The pages
Well,
is
that's right.
louder. The sound of the page
If the paper
doesn't
is
matter.
in page
Mine are always
protectors.
in plastic.
No, no.
Mine are
I
always
said
in
I
plastic.
said a book that you're going to turn the pages on.
Yeah.
You know, we have a couple
If
that
you have a
tiny
clip to a
people
book and you're
come
turning the
and-
pages,
Oh, my
that
goodness,
wind
my
sound
goodness.
is picked up by the microphone.
Right, yeah.
How long did you think?
Well,
Clipboards work 'cause they don't turn the pages.
Okay. Hi, camera.
It's still there.
Yeah, 5 minutes. So if you would give me just 1 second here to just look at what I want to say that's important to
You know,
say.
you can
Everything's
take 10, but then
okay. I can take 10. And that's another piece. There's so many pieces. creating spaciousness in a ceremony is really important. That in that letter that I sent out to people who are doing readings, slow. Take your time in saying what you have to say so that everyone can actually absorb it. So
Yeah, don't play auctioneer.
no. And in the beginning of every ceremony, I have silence. I invite everyone, right? As soon as the bride and the groom are right there at the altar, I say, let's have a moment of silence. And we take 30 seconds, 40 seconds to just be with maybe the birds, or there's water, or just to feel the earth under our feet, to gather ourselves and to connect energetically with each other. So I'm going to take a moment of silence to look over my notes to see what's calling to be included here.
Okay, so once again, the parts that aren't in your packet of information is the marriage vows, guideline, and examples. And then there's also one that's poems and prose for wedding ceremonies, and those will be coming out to you. And then I'll send the other stuff too, because there's some that you might want to personalize put your name on instead of Carol's name, and that sort of thing. Or you could.
So one of the things that I want to say about the ritual pieces and the co-creation and about authenticity is that if you are creating a ceremony where the pieces that are chosen reflect who the couple is, that you're not suggesting something or they're not kind of agreeing to something that is in the realm of who they are in their essence, then everything is going to be, it's going to be authentic. It's going to have a ring of naturalness to it, no matter what it is, because this is who they are. So that's a key piece. And also not being attached to suggestions that you may have, that you're not being attached to whether they accept them or whether they reject them, that you're just stream of consciousness, trusting what it is that arises in you as a suggestion for a ceremonial piece, and then offering it as an idea. And if some part of you feels somewhat strongly about it for them, then you can give anecdotes about other couples and you can kind of flesh it out for them and talk about the deeper meaning underneath that particular ritual piece. It's very important that the deeper meaning of each piece be alive and be honored, because then everything is empowered. And when you talk to a couple about the deeper meanings, or when they talk to you about the deeper meaning of something that they have thought of, then it's alive. And people will say, well, how long is the ceremony going to be? You know, it's like, we've only allotted 15 minutes, or, you know, I say, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what wants to be in here, and then we'll see how long it's going to be. And usually 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I've done ceremonies that were an hour and a half that were too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And it was the couple, they were very strong personalities. They had certain things that they wanted food to be passed among all the people in the, you know, and there were a lot of people. They wanted the rings passed for blessing. So, you know, and sometimes couples are so strong in what it is that they want or don't want that you really need to honor that. You give them your professional ceremonial advice and counsel, and then, you know, you speak your truth, and then you let go of you're open to outcome rather than attached to outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Tom.
I remind people when I do a wedding that there's a spiritual component, there's a legal component, and there's a physical component. And they have brought a gift with them to the wedding, most probably, and that's part of their physical component. I ask them to take a moment, they go within themselves, either pray or hold the thought of their blessing to the couple that's being married as they're linking in with the spiritual component to accompany their gift.
Beautiful. You know, they call it a convocation, but it really is setting an intention, and that's what you're talking about. And
Right.
what I do is I invite everyone at the beginning of the ceremony. I talk about the importance of sharing life transition with each other, that it builds connection, that it strengthens community, that it, you know, it helps people be better people in the world by showing up and being responsible and being present for the people that they care about. And I ask them to bring all of who they are to every facet of the ceremony, that their presence, their attention is actually empowering everything that happens. So I charge the guests. I say, this is your task. This is your part. This is your part. And during the vows, I also invite everyone to go inside themselves, that this most powerful part of the ceremony, to go inside themselves and remember times and vows that they have taken, and hold them in their hearts and hold them in their consciousness, and know that their vows are being re-energized and reconsecrated as the couple are exchanging their vows. And I talk about the different vows. I talk about the vow of marriage and the vow of loving and caring for your children and your grandchildren, or a vow of service. And there are some key pieces that I think are really important. Like at the end of the ceremony, I mention all the people who are being of service in this day. You know, I don't say the caterer and the florist and the, but I allude to that all the people that are helping to make this what it is, that we extend gratitude to them. And I also take all the goodness that we have generated in this ceremony, and any merit that we have gained in doing this sacred work, and I extend it out to all of life on behalf of all of us. So in Buddhism they call that the dedication of merit. So you're dedicating whatever good has come from this to the goodness of all of life. And I feel like now I'm pulling from my consciousness a few important pieces. I like to have elders. I like to have elders in the ceremony to do blessing if that's possible. I encourage people, if it's not a grandparent, but somebody that they respect, that after they have said their vows and exchanged their rings, that someone from their community, someone from their family comes and gives their blessing to them. I also like to have ceremonies that are inclusive, that the guests participate in as much as possible. There's a whole list of ceremonial pieces that, depending upon how creative a couple is just in themselves, I will throw out. One couple had bubbles that they passed out, that people blew bubbles at different times whenever they wanted to in the ceremony, which was really fun. One couple had lines that different people would stand up during the ceremony just spontaneously and say a line that the couple had written about their hopes for the marriage. It's just it's an art form is what it is. It's a sacred art form.
That sounds interesting.
What's that?
That people just stand up and go. And then remember, you promised you would take out the trash.
Right. Well, there's one on here, the vows. There's an example of vows where the woman says that I will look for my responsibility in any issue, any challenge that we have together, even when it's your fault. And then then one person had in their vows, I promise to be tidy-er.
Keep Orange Crush, in the refrigerator at all times.
So it's time. It's
Well,
time,
and they're
and
here to-
it's been a pleasure. I hope that what I've had to share with you has been somewhat inspiring in your own ministry, and that the handouts that you have here can in some way nurture your own ministry and your own ceremonial work. And if you have any questions about anything or any comments, please contact me.
Her phone number's on some of these. End up somewhere.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Carol, it's been wonderful.
Thank you.